They brought her into the war room like a trophy. Her feet dragged across the smooth black stone of the Sherrick warcruiser, leaving faint trails of red, blood or rust. It didn't matter. The alien guards flanking her grunted with amusement as she stumbled, then fell. She was just a girl. Barely 20 by human standards. Dirt smeared across her pale face. One eye swollen shut. Arms bound in thick biometal cuffs that suppressed muscle response and regulated blood flow. The high predators encircled her. The Sherrick elite. 7 feet tall, plated in bone skin and armed with mandible jaws that could tear clean through durasteel. They laughed in deep, gurgling tones, the laughter of creatures who had never lost. Human. Female. Weak blood, one said, licking the air. Yet they resist. Their colonies burn but still they fight, another snarled. The girl coughed. We're stubborn like that. One of the Sherrick backhanded her. She fell hard, lips splitting, but she didn't cry out. She just glared, one good eye burning with defiance. High Predator Hekka, the fleet's commander, loomed close. What is your name, pray? She said nothing. You will answer, Hekka hissed, claws tightening around her chin. Or I shall peel your mind from your skull. Still the girl stared, lips curling into a tired smile. You're going to regret this. The aliens erupted in snarls and hissing chuckles. The prey had bark. Beneath the surface. Across the stars, the Sherrick Empire's campaign scorched its way through what remained of the Terran frontier. 3 colonies had fallen in weeks. Outposts obliterated. Cities glassed. Survivors taken, if any remained. The Sherrick, apex hunters of the Outer Rim, believed in demonstration. Crushing will before it fermented into resistance. They didn't expect humanity to adapt. To bite back. To learn. And they definitely didn't expect what was coming for them now. The captured girl wasn't just a colonist. She was bait. And she had volunteered. Hunter becomes hunted. At the edge of the Sherrick system, a single human ship decloaked. Not a warship. No registry. No IFF tag. It drifted forward, engines cold, shaped like a predator's jaw, a sharp, angular blade of obsidian metal. Inside sat a man. Tall. Wrapped in a combat frame that looked custom-forged from shadows and pain. His eyes were focused, emotionless. His face bore scars too old to be recent, too precise to be accidents. The tattoos on his neck marked him as special forces, but the design? Unfamiliar. Because he didn't belong to any known unit. He belonged to something worse. The operative keyed in a command. A light blinked green. And in the heart of the Sherrick flagship, the girl's neural transceiver lit up. Eris, a voice whispered in her skull. Time to come home. She smiled. And then all hell began to break loose. Predators get lazy. The Sherrick guards laughed when the lights flickered. They assumed it was the ship's gravity shunting. Or some human trick trying to play mind games. Nothing physical. Until the power core dropped to half. Until the command bridge lost feed from decks 7 through 9. Until internal sensors stopped showing life signs from 3 full guard squads. The girl, Eris, sat still, head bowed. She was still cuffed. But she was smiling again. You're not apex predators, she said quietly. Hekka stormed back into the war room. What have you done? Me? Eris blinked innocently. Nothing. She looked up. But he's not nothing. And then the blast door behind her detonated. The apex arrives. The smoke cleared just long enough to make out his silhouette. He moved like he belonged in the air. Faster than any of the Sherrick could react, he was already inside. One guard lunged, his jaw unhinged wide for a killing bite. The man moved once. A flick of the wrist. The Sherrick's head hit the ground before the rest of his body did. Panic rippled through the room. Hekka drew his chlorifle and roared for reinforcements. 3 more guards opened fire. But the man was already gone. No, he was above them. He dropped from the ceiling, landed silently, and moved like death made real. Every step was an execution. Every strike surgical. The room filled with screams, blood, and the stink of predator fear. And then, silence. Hekka stood alone, shaking. And the man, the apex, walked toward him. A human statement. Who are you? The alien gasped. The man didn't speak right away. He bent beside Eris, sliced through her cuffs with a monoblade and helped her to her feet. Then he looked at the last remaining Sherrick commander. You are predators, the man said, voice quiet, deadly. But we are apex predators. You hunted us. You took her. That was your mistake. Eris stood taller now. Stronger. The neural cuffs had suppressed her body's signals, but her mind had never been chained. Hekka stumbled back, claw raised. We are the dominant species of the dark quadrants. You are children of a green world, weak, emotional. The man took one step forward. Then another. Do you know what Earth is? He asked. Hekka didn't respond. It's the graveyard of everything that ever tried us. Hekka trembled. He had watched planets burn. Had split the skulls of armored foes. Had flayed prisoners and fed their bones to younglings. But now, confronted with a single unarmored human who moved like the shadows themselves, he shook. The man didn't roar. He didn't posture. He simply stepped forward. Each stride echoed louder than plasma fire. Behind him, Eris, free now, knelt beside one of the fallen Sherrick. She picked up a shock pike, twisted it in her hand with a familiarity no colonist should have had, and stood without a word. What are you? Hekka snarled, claws twitching as he backed toward the wall. Assassin? Spy. No one has breached a command warship in millennia. The man replied in a voice of calm certainty. Designation, Apex Protocol. Origin, classified. Mission, extraction, execution, eradication. And then he moved. No mercy. Hekka fired. 3 rounds from his chlorifle screamed through the chamber, each tipped with volatile plasma, fast enough to melt iron in microseconds. The man didn't even dodge. He deflected them. One with a forearm blade. One with a twist of the shock pike Eris had handed him mid-lunge. And the third? It hit his chest plate, and fizzled. Armor integrity, 97%. The alien howled. You shouldn't have taken her, the Apex whispered, and slammed Hekka against the war room wall with a sound like a thunderclap. Eris watched, silent, as the room that once reeked of blood and bravado now reeked only of fear. How it started. Back on Earth, the Apex Protocol wasn't a myth. It was worse than that. It was real and kept buried. Decades ago, when the first alien raids hit Mars and the moon colonies, Earth learned one thing very fast. Predators don't understand words. They understand pain. So Earth made specialists. Not soldiers. Not agents. They made humans who didn't break, didn't feel, didn't hesitate. They called them Apex, Advanced Predatory Engagement Xeno Units. There were only a dozen. All of them ghosts. And one had come for Eris. Not because she was special, but because he had trained her. The student remembers. Eris walked toward the 2 figures, her former mentor and the alien who dared to put her in chains. Hekka gurgled, pinned to the wall by a blade through the shoulder. The Apex knelt beside him, retrieving something from the corpse of a dead Sherrick. Please, the alien begged, his tone a whisper now. There are protocols. If you kill me, the fleet retaliates. Let them, Eris said quietly. He turned to look at her, realizing, too late, that she was not the prey. She was the hunter in training. You're one of them? He breathed. A prototype. No, she said, raising the shock pike. I'm the next generation. And she drove the blade home. Signals across the void. The Apex retrieved a small spherical device from his belt and activated it. Holographic stars danced above the carnage, and he tapped a few points in the projection. Red signals flashed. Enemy fleet coordinates. Vessel rosters. Movement patterns. Everything Hekka had known, now in human hands. Eris stared at the stars. How bad? 7 Sherrick fleets, the man replied. 1 en route to Terra Nova. 2 circling Jupiter orbitals. They intend full genocide. She tensed. Orders? The Apex straightened. You're no longer cargo. You're mission active. He handed her a sidearm. Let's finish what they started. The war room reclaimed. The 2 humans moved through the corridors of the enemy command ship like reapers. No alarms triggered now, because there were no more guards to trip them. No more commanders to scream. Just silence. Eris and the Apex reached the bridge. And the girl, no longer bound, no longer afraid, tapped into the comm system. She broadcast a signal to the Sherrick fleet. This is Eris, Veil of Earth. You laughed at us. You called us prey. But let me be clear, we do not run. We do not beg. We evolve. And you took the wrong girl. The Apex added a second voice. And now you've activated something you can't deactivate. A moment later, 7 human stealth vessels decloaked in orbit around the Sherrick fleet. Silent. Waiting. Predator panic. On board the fleet's secondary command ship, General Score looked at the screen. Dozens of blips. No signatures. No comms. No known propulsion trails. Just silence. What am I seeing? He barked at the tactical officer. The alien stammered, claws flying over controls. They're just there. No approach vector. No energy output. Then destroy them. The command went out. Plasma batteries turned. But by then, 3 Sherrick ships had already detonated from within. The Apex protocol had spread. And every human on those cloaked vessels was trained for one thing: to erase predators. No home for monsters. Back on the flagship, Eris and the Apex stood in the heart of the now silent bridge. "Fleet Command will be watching this," she said. "They already are," he replied. "What happens when the Sherrick retaliate?" He paused. "They won't." Eris raised a brow. "Because," he said, "they'll never make it home." The screen behind them showed the outer edge of the system. From it emerged something massive. A ship 10 kilometers long. The Apex carrier. Built in orbit of Jupiter. Hidden from all scans. Cloaked in stellar shadows. Crew manifest, classified. Purpose: final extermination of predator-class civilizations. Eris stared. "I thought it was a rumor. Everything human is, until it's too late." The Apex carrier was not supposed to exist. Not to the Sherrick. Not to the Galactic Council. Not even to Earth's own civilian governments. It had no registry. No public record. No official captain. And yet it drifted now, silent and certain, into the heart of the Predator fleet, like a leviathan from some long-dead god's nightmare. Eris stood with the Apex operative on the command deck of the captured Sherrick ship, eyes locked on the growing shadow. It eclipsed stars. It made suns seem small. "Status?" she asked. The man beside her touched his wrist. A HUD flickered to life across the viewport. Carrier lock acquired on enemy targets. Multi-vector disruption torpedoes prepped. Primary cannon, warm. Eris blinked. "Primary cannon? You'll see." Predators call for help. On board the surviving Sherrick vessels, panic had become policy. General Score, still alive barely, screamed into his encrypted channels. "To all Council-aligned powers, they've activated a Forbidden-class warship. The humans have a carrier-class artifact. Send reinforcements." The comm lines hissed. Then one voice replied. "Cool. Reptilian. You were warned." The line went dead. Other races in the sector, once eager to watch Earth fall, now watched with sudden silence. Not a single ally responded. No fleets launched. No messages followed. Because long ago the Council passed an unspoken law. If humans bring out their black projects, stand down. Abyss cannon. Eris and the Apex watched as the carrier's belly opened. From it emerged a construct unlike any standard weapon. Long, obsidian-colored, crackling with energy not entirely physical. Eris squinted. "That's not kinetic, not plasma. What is that?" The Apex answered without flinching. "It's a null-core weapon. It doesn't just destroy matter." He turned to her. "It erases it." She blinked. "You mean?" "No wreckage. No data. No warning shots. We call it the Abyss cannon. And once fired, even memory struggles to hold what was there." From the Apex carrier, the beam surged outward in utter silence. When it hit the first Sherrick ship, it didn't explode. It simply vanished. The collapse begins. Eris watched one enemy vessel after another disappear. Not melt. Not break. Not combust. Just cease. Like someone had erased a part of the universe with a careless stroke. General Score howled aboard the last remaining ship. "This is genocide. This is." His words never finished. A single humanoid figure appeared on his bridge, shimmered into view like a ghost. The Apex. Score barely had time to scream. When the transmission cut, the rest of the Sherrick fleet, what few ships remained, fled. Not toward their homeworld, but away from Earth. From the system. From the sector. They abandoned their warpath. Not out of fear of battle, but out of the realization that there would be no war. Only extermination. The message to the galaxy. Hours later, Eris stood aboard the Apex carrier. She looked out across space, now littered with enemy debris, what little was left. She activated the long-range relay. "This is Eris Vale. Human. Survivor. Combatant." The signal broadcast across systems, bouncing from one alien empire to the next. "We gave you warnings. We asked for peace. You called us weak. Called us prey. You took our people, experimented on them, laughed at our children." She held up the torn crest of the Sherrick High Commander. "You forgot what we really are." She paused. "Not the top of the food chain. The end of it." The Apex speaks. Beside her, the Apex unit stepped forward. Helmet off. Eyes calm. Voice deadly. "We are the result of your mistakes. Every drop of blood spilled awakened what you thought was long buried. You thought humans were fragile. He tapped the side of his skull. You forgot how fast we adapt. Behind them, Earth's hidden fleets flickered to life. Not one. Not two. Dozens. Silent ships, long cloaked in the gravity wells of dead stars, now aligned with the Apex carrier's signal. A message followed each one. Protocol Apex has been authorized. Threat clearance, global. Eris exhaled. It's starting, isn't it? The Apex nodded. The purge. Dark choices. Back on Earth, the hidden councils convened. Screens flickered. Files opened. Debates ended in seconds. Do we go all the way? Someone asked. They took our civilians. They crossed the line. Then it's done. And so Earth didn't just send warriors. It sent scholars of war. Engineers of entropy. Biologists who understood how to weaponize evolution. Across the void, alien races watched humanity awaken fully. Not as diplomats, but as descendants of a species forged by extinction events. Humans hadn't been quiet because they were weak. They'd been quiet because they were preparing. Eris Vale stood at the apex of humanity's retribution. Behind her, the command deck of the hidden supercarrier buzzed with activity, yet none dared speak above a whisper. On screen, galactic maps illuminated with red threads, paths of fleeing warships, collapsing alliances, worlds gone dark in fear. But the center of it all? Still quiet, still seemingly small, and now untouchable. She turned to the Apex unit beside her. His face was emotionless, his armor dark and dull like a tombstone carved for an empire not yet dead. They'll come back, she said. He nodded. Yes. But this time they'll beg. The survivors' plea. On the edge of the Illyrax expanse, an emergency summit formed within hours. Council remnants. Mercenary kings. Old warlords. Even Sherrick survivors, pale and trembling, spoke on their knees. We tried to shatter Earth's people, one choked. Instead, we opened something that cannot be closed. But as words filled the airwaves, no human envoy came. Only silence. And that silence spread fear deeper than any weapon. One warlord, an ancient insectoid from the Koru hive, demanded to know what humanity wanted. Then a reply came, not in transmission but in impact. A Koru moon imploded. No warning. No projectile. Just a silent burst of annihilation. A signature they now all recognized. Abyss class. Carrier strike, someone whispered. The humans responded, another muttered. And they said, we warned you. Inside the carrier. Eris watched the blast readout with cold detachment. Collateral? She asked. The Apex shook his head. Moon was a weapons depot. No civilians. He looked at her then. For the first time his voice softened. We are not monsters. But they forgot, we don't wait to become prey. Not again. She nodded. Then send the final beacon. He did. Across the galaxy, a transmission burst into every major channel. To the galaxy from the Apex carrier. This is not a war. This is a reckoning. You kidnapped our people. You laughed at our mercy. You thought silence meant fear. You forgot what humanity really is, not an empire, not a swarm, not a machine. We are what survives. And now we have remembered how to fight. The races who stayed silent. Some empires, once eager to ally against Earth, now tried to erase evidence of past involvement. Entire planetary archives burned. Diplomats scrubbed names from records. But Earth remembered. Aboard the carrier, Eris held a scroll, a list recovered from the Sherrick intelligence vaults. Names, locations, crimes. And next to each, a mark. Some already crossed out. Some still waiting. They thought we wouldn't come for them all, she whispered. The Apex stepped beside her. They forgot what we are capable of when we have cause. Eris turned, eyes burning. We have cause. A human voice in the dark. Among the stars, one last flare reached the Apex carrier. A single escape pod. Damaged, spiraling. Inside it, a child. Human. One of the captives long presumed dead. Barely alive. Scarred. But breathing. They brought her aboard. And as she opened her eyes to see Eris and the Apex leaning over her, the child asked one question. Did we win? Eris knelt. No, she said softly. We're just getting started. And the Apex added. When this ends, there won't be a need to win. There will only be silence. The end, or the warning. In the final days of the Purge, most alien empires simply stopped resisting. They abandoned colonies, fled space lanes, and turned inward. Whispers grew of a human ship seen passing near the galactic rim, larger than a planet, shaped like a blade, moving without propulsion. No comms. No sound. Just presence. The kind of presence that ends wars before they begin. Eris watched from the carrier's observation deck as one last Sherrick relay world went dark. No beam. No explosion. Just silence. Did we become monsters? She asked quietly. The Apex stepped beside her. No, he said. We became human. To the viewers beyond the stars. If you've walked with us this far, if your blood quickened as humanity rose from silence, if you felt the power of a species no longer shackled by fear, then join us. Subscribe to the Void Narratives.